All right, inside our circle packet of notes, we have tangents. So this will be our video on tangents, so find this page in your packet. A tangent line intersects a circle exactly one time, one point, called a point of tangency. So our point of tangency here would be letter A. That's where the tangent line and the circle intersect. A line is tangent to a circle if and only if it's perpendicular. It is perpendicular to a radius drawn to the point of tangency. Okay? So we have to have a perpendicular relationship with a radius that comes out of that point of tangency. It has to be perpendicular. So on these first two questions, we're going to test if it's perpendicular. So on number 1 and 2, determine if AB is tangent. How do we determine that? We determine to see if this is a right angle. That's what this test is doing. And how do we do that is by Pythagorean theorem. Now remember, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, C is always the hypo. C is always across from the right angle. So C is 17 in this problem. A and B are the legs or sides that make up the right triangle. So our A and B are 8 and 15. So we'll say A is 8 and 15 is B. So if A squared plus B squared equals C squared, this line AB is tangent. So 8 times 8, 15 times 15, let me grab my calculator, 17 squared. It's 289. Does 64 plus 225 equal 289? Yes. This is, AB is tangent to the circle. So yes, because it works. They are equal. All right, problem here. Our right angle is inside. We're going to test to see if that hypo is well, first of all, the hypo is all of this. And I hope you recognize that the 5 is only identifying a portion of it. So how do I get this part? Well, this part you have to recognize as a radius. And this part is a radius. So those two pieces must be equal. Every radii is 11 on this circle. So if I had another one out here, it'd be 11. So your C is going to be the sum of that. So C squared is going to be 16 here. So you got to catch it when it does that on these pictures. A is 11 and B is 14. So 11 squared plus 14 squared. And these are not going to be equal. So this is 121. 14 squared is 196. Plus, these add up to be 317. And 16 squared is 256. So this is not tangent because these are not equal. So no. There's a yes example and there's a no example. All right, so now that this is going to say 3 through 8 is going to say this is tangent. So JK is tangent, find X. So these are all going to be right triangles. And we're going to use Pythagorean theorem to find our piece. So X looks like it's the whole hypo. it specifically tells you that it's the entire hypo. So this is going to be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's how you would do this one. All right, to remember how to do this is you're going to square both those numbers. 7 squared, 19 squared, and I added them together, and I get 410. The last step is going to be take the square root. Okay, so we're going to use this button, this symbol on our calculator to take the square root of 410. And that will be 20, approximately, we'll say 20.25. I'll round it. We're rounding here, so it's going to be approximately 20.25. That means we rounded. All right, number 4. Looks like x is going to be a b. All right, so here's a. So a squared. Here's b. We'll say x squared. And here's your right angle. So that means all of this has to be c. That 7 is not the entire c. It's not the entire hypo. So just like before, if one radius is 11, all radii are 11. Plural for radius is radii. So your c, you have to catch this, is 18 squared. Okay, so 11 squared on my calculator is 121. I'll write down x squared. Okay, square 18 on my calculator, I get 324. Now I'm solving for x. So on this problem, we're going to have to isolate the x. Now I'm going to have to subtract the 121. So I get 203. And our last step is going to take the square root. Square root of 203. And we should get approximately 14.25 will work. That's fine. I rounded my second number at the 100 spot. Remember, this is a video, so you can pause and rewind if you need to, but I'm going to keep going. Looking at number 5. All right, so there's my right angle. So x is a part of c. So this is going to be tough. So if I were you in this situation, if you ever get in this situation, what I would do is I would make this entire thing y. And let me show you what this is going to do for you. That's the hypo. Okay, so a squared, there's a. Here's b, so b squared. All right, so I'm going to say, I'm going to make it y. Now let's show you why I do this. So 100 is 10 squared plus 24 squared is 576 equals y squared. Add them together and take the square root of 676. Whoops, put it in my calculator wrong. Okay, so this comes out to be 676, and the last step needs to be take the square root, and you get 26. So let me show you what I can do with this. Now that means all of this is 26. That's not x. How to find x is I know that entire red line is 26, and I also can tell that this radius is 10. If you have one radii, you have the other. So x is really basically 26 minus 10. Your answer for this is 16. That part has to be 16 if the radius is 10, because the hole is 26. I gotta keep moving to make this video somewhat not too long. Okay? So here's an A. So I'm solving for A squared. There's your right angle. A squared. Take a look at B. B is not 11. B is half of 11. That's a radius. So that means this is a radius. And B is going to have to be 11 plus 11. And then my C is 25 squared. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. X squared, 22 times 22 is 484. 25 times 25 is 625. Now we got to get rid of the 484 because we got to isolate the x. And I get 141. And again, the last step is to take the square root. Now I get right around 11.87, approximately, rounded. All right, so I'm doing the same thing over and over again. They're just giving me different information. So on this one, I'm just going to write the equation. This is the exact same thing on the previous problem. They give you the right angle, and they only give you half of A, or B, doesn't matter which one. So if you want to make this B or A, make sure you consider you have to double the 3.5. So I'll say that's B or A, doesn't matter. So that's A squared plus B is going to be this one, 6.4 squared. And then my hypo is just C squared. I've done problems like this before, so I'm going to move on. It's just like one of the previous problems when you have an empty hypo. Okay, on this one, it looks like we need to find that diameter, which could be A or B, and we got to cut it in half. All right, so watch. I'm going to say A squared is right there. There's my right angle, A squared. I'm going to make B, I'm going to call that Y, because X is half of that. And then C squared is 25. All right, so once I solve this problem and get Y, I'm just going to divide it by 2 to get X. Subtract 49, because we're isolating, getting Y by itself. Take the square root. So Y is 24, and X is going to be half of that. So your final answer here is 12. All right, so there is our video on tangent.